And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. After a busy weekend, we're going to share our top story at NorthcentralPa.com from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Why you shouldn't feed the animals. Do you feed animals? I have a feeling you don't feed the animals.
Like the outside one?
You don't feed them. I just know you.
Like pigeons and ducks I've fed.
I feel like even that's a stretch for you. You don't feed the animals.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I just feel like you don't feed the animals. We're going to talk about...
I don't shoot the animals. Does that make me good?
We're going to talk about shipping yards too. You know me, I get fixated on these little things happening. This weekend it was shipping yards and logistics. I want to talk to you about that. There's some numbers that absolutely irk me about it.
Nothing moves the rating needles like logistical issues.
Like logistics and shipping yards. And then we're going to have a conversation. We've talked about Rogan. We've talked about Portnoy. We've talked about Maher. They're all kind of culminating into this moment in time right now where all these things are kind of leading into the same thing. They have a lot of familiarity, a lot of things in common. So I want to talk about those. And then we're going to touch on what you're really good at, talking about bad movies. The Razzies released their nominations. So we're going to talk about that at the end of the show today. Before we get to all of that, Mark, how are you feeling today?
I just want everyone to know this. I'll tell you how I'm feeling today. We come on the air. We always talk about our pre-show meetings, which is just more about chit-chat than...
It's really just you and I talking back and forth.
But tonight, for those of you who know, there's a rivalry basketball game going on. I will be sitting on one bench. Jeff will be sitting on the other bench.
Yes.
And, Jeff's team has been somewhat more successful than mine has been this year. And in the pregame, all I'm hearing this is, we're going to kill you. We're going to kick your ass. And now he comes on the air and he's really nice to me. But for like the 20 minutes before the show, he's just like browbeating me with like, you guys shouldn't even show up. You guys were going to crush you. You could play with 7 guys on the court and we would still win. Like the abuse that I was taking was horrible.
Nobody has downplayed this game more than myself. No, nobody. People think that this...
Are you saying people weren't buying that? I thought I sold it pretty well.
Can I say just 2 quick things? The first one is, I think people think I'm more competitive than what I am. Is that a fair... Like, you've been around me now for a while. I really don't hang on winning and losing.
Well, no, you're a different kind. You're extremely competitive from the analytical side.
Sure.
You want to see, like, you want to see what happened. Yes, you want to see what happened, and then like where we can go from here. What did we do wrong? What did we do well? And where we go from here. You're not. Yeah, like if you win by 1 or lose by 1, you're not going to sit home and beat yourself up. You're going to be thinking like, this is what we need to do next.
You came in today and you said we made 11 3-pointers and lost the other night. And the first thing I said to you was, that's weird because we made no 3-pointers the other night and won. Now, does that mean that like my team was better than yours? Probably.
Yes, because you won.
Probably not in that aspect, though. So I just think everything's contextualized. I think there's always a way to look at this stuff, regardless of what the final score actually shows. I like to win, but it's just not like the end all be all. The other thing, and my girlfriend gets so mad at people for this because they'll be like, oh, good thing he won. He'll be in a good mood tonight. And my girlfriend will tell you, like, it really doesn't change my mood. Like something really drastic has to happen for something to like throw me off my rocker. So the reason I say both of those things, I think people think that like this is a real like rivalry for me. And for me, like I just really like basketball and I'm excited to coach another basketball game. But I think for people like this is
there's a real thing. Oh, listen. And I tell people this too. Feeling well. Oh, I'm getting texts from players. Wasn't feeling well. Like people were texting me when the Cowboys lost in the playoffs,
right?
And they're texting me like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm 50 years old. Like I'm used to this. This is like I am going to work tomorrow. I'm not going to go curl up in my bed and cry because."
Real quick, tell people about the text message I sent you about the NFL statement.
That they
and I almost got you with it.
You did. I read the whole. I read it seriously. I've gotten it from other people, but you were first.
Okay.
The NFL. It's a meme that looks official.
Yes.
Because last year the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to play the Super Bowl at home.
Yes.
Because they select the Super Bowl site years ahead.
Correct.
And it's the first time it ever happened.
Yes.
Was last year.
Yes.
Now it's happened 2 years in a row because the Rams are there.
Yes.
So this professional thing that said, and due to the NFL doesn't ever want this to happen again. So for the foreseeable future, the Dallas Cowboys are going to host the Super Bowl every year, whatever. It's fun. I've told people this before. When Mike pitched in the big leagues, when he came out of the locker room after the game, you could not tell if he won, lost, or didn't pitch.
Yeah.
You could not tell.
And I totally believe that.
There is a I think a long-term health to being able to balance. Like I told, if you would have seen me in the locker room, we lost by a point, we blew a late lead, some bad plays, some bad shooting, and a call or two that we didn't get.
Sure.
But we blew a late lead. And in the locker room, like I was smiling. I told our kids how much fun, how proud I was of them. We played great. They just played 1 point greater. Because it's not like, that's one of the other things about sports. We played really well.
Sure.
They just played really well-er.
Sure.
And you just kind of look back and say, hey, listen, they were super tonight. And we were just a little bit less. So, yeah, I'm with you. Our last 2 games have been 1 point games. Yeah. We won by 1. We lost by 1. And when you sit down with the kids and you're like in a 32-minute game, 1 call, 1 bounce, 1 like.
Yeah. It's all contextualized.
Yes.
Before we start on the rundown, you and I've talked about this before. I'm always surprised at how athletes who don't react sometimes get a bad rap. So one of our best players last year was Idris, who ended up being Player of the Year. And I always joked about the thing about Idris was you could never tell what the score was if you just looked at Idris. It could be 30 seconds to go in a tied game. It could be the beginning of the game, up 30, down 30. And if you looked at Idris's face, you had no idea. Now, some people go like, is he having fun? Like, does he love it?
Correct.
And so like some coaches are kind of like, well, I don't know if he really he doesn't seem passionate, nothing else. And then in my head, I'm thinking like, no, like he's a stone cold killer. He understands that like everything's okay. And I'm not going to change my demeanor based off of the high or the euphoria of the crowd or the game or the reaction of everybody else. So it is funny how society, sometimes we judge people that really have everything under control, but we almost want them to like show like how much they care, that like it mattered, like I'm upset I lost or like I'm glad I won. And like if you don't show those emotions, people question whether you care or not. And I've never understood that.
Well, it's because people are uncomfortable in whatever situation if they don't react like you react. Like I have a buddy who worked for city government and local governments and whatever. And he said to me, like, could you imagine if you had to go over a municipal budget for 5 hours?
Sure.
Like most of us would look for a bridge to jump off of because that would be, and he's like, he loved it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, I was sitting there in my office. I look up, it's midnight.
Yeah.
And cause he was just, so yes, there's the way everyone is wired is differently. And you're right. When people react differently than the way you react,
sure,
people are uncomfortable with it because they're like, he should be more emotional. He should be.
It's funny because I've joked with you. That's why I always feel uncomfortable opening gifts. You and I have talked about this because like for most of my life, I'm very steady and so there are times where like when I get a gift and I'm opening it, I'm almost telling myself before I even open it, like, you have to react. You have to react.
You're coaching yourself up.
Like, I'm kind of like telling myself, like, you have to smile. Like, you have to. And like, I've received stuff from people and I'm like tickled to death, like just thrilled that they thought of me and they got me this thing and everything else. And then I'll reflect back and I'll be like, I didn't react that way.
Right.
Like I didn't. So it is funny how some of that stuff goes. You ready to dive into some?
Yeah, let's get some of this.
So our top story of the week, I think we're going to try to start doing this every Monday. Maybe we'll try to jump on what our top story of the week was at NorthcentralPa.com. I'm sure some of them will be not what we are expecting to talk about. Similar to today, our top story over the weekend, Pennsylvania Game Commission, please do not feed the animals. I was picking on you earlier in the show. But like, is this even an issue for you?
Like bear and deer and
anything?
No.
Like, do you have a bird feeder? You don't have a bird feeder, do you? No. You don't have anything like that.
You know what I have? A bug zapper. Ooh, and I love it.
One of the electrical ones?
The blue light thingies that just in the summer. Oh my gosh.
You like that?
It's like listening to the waves crash. I love it.
It's like, and then you ponder life, right? As you're listening
to
as
I listen to it.
Anybody who listens to the show consistently
you had to stick with that one. That was a long-term joke. No, I do. I
Okay.
love it. I could sit there and listen to that thing zap little critters all night.
Oh my God.
And that may make me a horrible person, but
No, I don't think it makes you a horrible person. So some of the stuff,
not a horrible,
not a horrible person.
Oh.
So the Pennsylvania Game Commission, they're reminding the public to focus on habitat over handouts, especially during the winter. I'm sure we've all been in the position. I know my family used to throw leftovers outside. We've moved now more towards just like the bird feed and nuts and different things like that. But essentially what they're saying is risk of feeding wild animals can include increased risk of disease being spread, aggressive behavior, loss of natural fear of humans, harm to habitats, and the reliance of food offered by humans. So you're almost doing the wildlife a disservice if you are consistently over and over again feeding them.
One of the things that I never thought of until we were talking about how cold it was, and you might have even been the one that told me this. I can't remember who said it.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the extreme cold, and I knew it had an effect on ticks with Lyme disease. And I don't know whether it kills them or it stuns them or whatever the case may be. But warm winters are not are breeding grounds for ticks. We need cold winters to do this. One of the other things that I'd never thought of is the cold winters help kill off the diseased, unhealthier animals.
Yes.
Where if the diseased, unhealthier animals survive, it just spreads the disease.
Yes.
So I can imagine where you've got an animal who left to nature is not going to make it.
Yeah.
But you're now artificially keeping it alive.
Correct.
And the disease that animal has now is going to spread further. So yeah, I get that.
Yes.
That
there because I wouldn't call myself a nature nerd, but I do like
well, you grew up on a farm, so you know more than most.
You know me, the farm kid.
Well, you're not a farm kid, but you had to pick some stuff up along the way.
Yes, we have some land, and so I was able to be around people who loved it, probably more than I loved it. But I was always interested in the natural side of it, the nature side of it. I love animals. There was this piece done on National Geographic, and they actually talk about how in our national parks across the country, they love harsh winters because typically what they will see is in the coming years, wildlife is just abundant and it's healthy. And there is, like you said, artificial was the perfect world. It's artificial survival. You're not really in their world and their circumstances. You're not actually doing them or their species a favor by doing so. And I know people don't want to probably hear that because they feel like they're doing something positive, but just a reminder from the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Yes.
Do not feed the animals if possible. And be sure to check out NorthcentralPa.com throughout the weekend for all of your local news.
Story got a little bit of run.
It's just, it surprisingly did. This is one of my personal, I like to find these global conflicts and these things that we like to talk about. Logistics and shipping yard fiascos are not getting better despite what the numbers say. Before I dive into the issue,
let me just jump in and say
Go
this.
ahead.
Here's my subtitle.
Okay.
This sounds like a stupid topic.
Yeah.
You will like this topic.
Yeah.
Once we get to the meat and potatoes of it,
yeah,
you will be just laughing and scratching your head and realizing why the world is a messed up place.
Yes, it really, really interesting. So Reuters put out a story over the weekend. Efforts to speed up the movement of goods around the world have yet to solve the supply chain bottlenecks caused by surging demand for retail goods and pandemic-related lockdowns. This is all based off of the latest shipping data that they have collected. I'm not saying anything there that we don't already know. You and I have been talking about logistics. We've been talking about supply chain, everything that's wrong with them. Here's where it's different. The numbers for the United States have been improving across our shipping yards.
Why have they been improving, Jeff?
I was curious. So when I read this and I realized that Reuters is saying that like the actual time delay for our supply chains on land have not improved, but have actually gotten worse. However, our maritime shipping yards have actually improved. And I was like, this makes
something seems amiss.
I was like, this makes no sense. So I dug into it. There is a gentleman by the name of Ryan Peterson. He is the CEO of Flexport. He went on a podcast called the All In Podcast. It's one of the #1 growing podcasts right now. There's 3 billionaires who do the podcast together. They were self-made billionaires. Their wealth was not handed down. One was a cryptocurrency guru. Another one was in logistics. And that's how they were able to land Ryan Peterson as a guest. Ryan Peterson and his company, what he realized, and he essentially from the federal government receives like, you have to do this, you need to do that. And then he goes and tells his employees like, hey, we got to one of the things that they started doing, our federal government, to help with the bottleneck of the shipping ports, is they actually told the ships, because of pollution, we don't want you this close to shore while you are waiting to essentially unload. And so what they did was they backed them up so far away. However, they didn't change the numbers to fix that. So when someone goes in and says how many ships are waiting, the ships that are pushed back are no longer in the counts.
Because they're too far away to be counted.
Because they're too far away to be counted. However, they're still
waiting.
They're still sitting there, stalled out, waiting for somewhere to unload these huge shipping containers. So our federal government's numbers are showing that our shipping yard problem is being solved. It's getting better. There's nothing to see there. But really, if you have a pair of binoculars and you can look out past the loading dock, you can see all the same ships are still there waiting. And so the quandary of the federal government or anybody thinking they solved this problem, and these numbers not aligning up with what's actually happening inland in the United States with our shipping and waiting on these retail goods, it just cracked me up because it's not even a Band-Aid. Like, I'd like to say it was like a Band-Aid on a gash, but it's not even a Band-Aid. You're really just, you came up with a solution without actually changing the data that shows whether or not you fixed the solution.
They're still standing in line. They've just moved the line further away so you can't see it.
Yes.
Instead of right out the door, we've moved the line down and around the corner.
Correct.
They're still waiting. It just doesn't look as bad anymore.
Yes. It's almost like the when you go to Disney World or you go to Disneyland and they have like the long lines and you go around this corner and then there's something to look at and you go, so like you're standing in line, but you know, visually, do you realize you're standing in line? Like, so I found that very ironic. And they're saying now, Reuters is saying that it's going to go through 2022. The supply chain probably will not be. They're looking to actually solve the problem or get it fixed in 2023. So yeah, I think we're going to go through the same stuff again through summer and then into the holiday season as well.
I'm with you. Start your Christmas shopping now.
I found that absolutely fascinating. That they changed that up without actually fixing the numbers as well. There is a lot of different ways for us to dive into this one. I'll just read the caption and then maybe we'll bounce back and forth. Barstool Sports founder David Portnoy is officially suing Business Insider. You and I had talked about Business Insider released a hit piece on David Portnoy, accusing him of sexual abuse within his dating relationships. Since then, he has refuted them. The people that were used as sources have come out and said, like, well, you know, it's really taken out of context. What I said doesn't really show that he abused me or that I ever was abused. And Portnoy has held his ground. At the same time, comedian podcaster Joe Rogan is now getting Spotify support. I just looked it up because you and I were talking about it. Spotify has said they will not silence Joe Rogan, despite recent backlash against the previous act in which he used the N-word. And then there was one other incident as well, and I'm blanking on it.
On broadcasters?
What's that?
On social media broadcasters, or you talking about the golf guy?
On Joe Rogan. There was one other incident because he had the
Neil Young.
He had the Neil Young
N-word.
He had the N-word in his act.
I don't know. There's another one. I think
there was one other incident on one of his podcasts on Spotify. Now I'm blanking what it was. But the point being is, after all this, Spotify is still backing him despite, you know, cancel culture coming after him. And then the other one is show host Bill Maher. He appears to be next up on the cancel culture chopping block. He has been very critical of his Democratic Party because he is a registered Democrat and he voted Democrat in the last election, as he's already said. But he has been very, very critical of them and this administration, and the party does not love it. They have attacked him despite the fact that he is a very forward-thinking. I would argue he's a progressive. I would agree. I would argue he is a Democrat. I don't think
he's clearly liberal.
Yes.
He just isn't unhappy with the party.
So you have all these.
He's not the only one.
So you have all these different aspects. You have the Rogan issue, you have the Portnoy one, you have the Bill Maher one, and they're all from different parts of the world. You know, like they all come from different parts of society, different parts of the aisle, different ways that they came to fame, different viewpoints, and yet it feels like there's one part of society that just does not want them to speak, that doesn't want them to be able to be successful, or doesn't want them, basically wants to take them down. And I'm interested now with this all culminating at once. I feel like we're reaching that tipping point finally.
It's shocking to me that in America, which is, the country of free speech, that in 2022, our immediate reaction to everything is, if somebody's saying something that I don't agree with, they shouldn't get to say it anymore.
Right.
And when you're taking people who are intelligent people, Bill Maher is really he's a unique guy right now, and we've talked about it, because he's very liberal, but he has conservative guests on his show, every show, because he has a balanced panel, and he will call out both sides when they're wrong. And I think I told you this last week. He made a comment that people were telling him, you're ripping the Democratic Party more than you ever have. And he said, they're giving me more material to work with than they've ever given me.
Right.
So this aspect in life, when you have somebody who's smart and who's saying something and about you that's critical, there's the knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, you should shut up. But then there's another aspect, is maybe I should listen to what this person is saying.
Right.
Because if I respected him yesterday and I respected him last year,
right,
maybe there's some truth to what he's saying, and the Democratic Party doesn't want to hear it.
What really, I guess, worried is a strong word, but if we're going to talk about this topic, the thing that worries me is that I feel like most of these people are very centered people.
I agree.
And so the irony, like, these aren't your, far right, far left. These aren't even like your conspiracy theory type of people. These are just people that have become successful through being willing to talk to people from both sides of the aisle, both sides of life. If you're interesting, they'll talk to you. And yet these are the people that are in the forefront of media, and then they're in the forefront of cancel culture. That really, really worries me.
Well, and maybe centered isn't the right word, because I don't think Bill Maher is centered in any way, but he's fair.
He's willing.
And
is that
yes,
a good word? He's willing to talk to anybody. And so is Joe Rogan, and so is David Portnoy.
And they're fair.
Yes.
And I don't know Joe Rogan. I would suspect Joe Rogan's very conservative. But he's fair. Yes. And like, as I'm a diehard this is the thing that I don't get. I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. I do not like our coach. I do not like our coach. And like, so is that okay? Like, Bill Maher is a lifelong Democrat. He does not like the regime right now. So does that make him a bad Democrat? No, like, this is how you progress. When the people on the inside, like if the Republicans are yelling at the Democrats and Democrats yelling at the Republicans and everyone's telling each other you're stupid and you're wrong and I'm right and you're wrong, it doesn't really do anything. But when the people inside your own party are going like, wait a minute, like, we need to relook at this. They're doing this better than we are.
Right.
That has a little teeth to it. So, but, I don't know. It is shocking to me in the political world how you can't say anything against it. And here's the crazy thing about Bill Maher. Bill Maher might be in trouble because he has no Republican base and he's not going to become conservative. He's just not. So if he loses his liberal base, but again, he's on TV and it all depends on ratings. And same with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's about ratings. And as long as they got ratings, it'll be fine. So I would think they'd survive it. But just silencing these people is not the answer, because here's the next question. There's obviously an audience for these people, and the audience is going to get filled. Sure. It's not like, people aren't going to listen to podcasts anymore because Joe Rogan's out. Sure. They're going to find somebody else who knows what this guy is. Sure. And it's not like he's going to be calmer, and it's got to be somebody who makes a name for himself somehow. And so I don't know. I don't get it. But
these are probably, I haven't sat down and made a list, but if you said to me, like, Jeff, who are your favorite free thinkers? Like, who are the people that, like, even though they're party affiliated, they don't let the party decide their choices or what they believe is right or wrong?
I'm touched.
Thank you. And these are the three that I would have probably said.
Wait, me and who were the other two?
No, I didn't say you.
Oh, I thought that's where you're going.
You are a free thinker, though. You are a free thinker. I'll give you that. But these are so like you just like I said, I thought if you would have said to me who are going to be at the beginning of 2022, who are going to be the 3 people that were like on the chopping block for cancel culture, I would have said probably someone far left. I would have said probably someone far right, and I would have said probably just some like lunatic. And to
somebody
me,
who does something stupid.
and to me, these 3 don't fit any of those
I'm with you.
description. These are just 3 of the freest thinkers we have, and they'll talk to anybody, and they have these massive platforms. It's almost like the massive platform is the thing that people don't like.
But and to go, I'm with you. Now, I don't even think it's the massive platform they don't like. I just think people are so sensitive to, he said something that I don't agree with. And like, listen, I'll give you a perfect example. In my world, and this is very unique to my situation, I loved Colin Cowherd.
Okay.
He used to be on ESPN Radio, now he's Fox.
Right.
Like, I used to listen to him when he was on all the time, and I thought he was great.
Sure.
And he made a comment after my brother's worst year in the big leagues. He was 38 years old. He had 1 more year in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about the Yankees coming into the upcoming season, or maybe it was that season. I don't know. But a guy who I loved listening to makes the comment because they were talking about the Yankees and he said, Mike Messina, he's shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time, I knew he was hurt. And I knew this, and I didn't know as a 39-year-old he was going to come back and win 20 games and be what he was and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But I knew he was hurt, and I knew, he wasn't at the top of his game right now because of physical issues. But it's like all of a sudden I didn't take it personally because I understand if you're watching him now as a 38-year-old and 38-year-olds make your decline – Colin Cowherd wasn't the only person in America thinking, Mike Messina's best days are behind him.
Sure.
So, and it's not, I didn't turn the dial and I'd be like, he's a sports guy. He's making comments. He's making analysis. And that's what he did. And hopefully Mike gets healthy and he gets a chance to prove him wrong. And he did.
But the key words that you said there was if you wanted to turn the dial, you could have.
I could have.
It doesn't mean that Colin Cowherd needs to be taken off of the platform or taken off the air. And I know like what Colin Cowherd's talking about is different than maybe like talking about COVID or talking about the president, or like, I understand the weight of those things are different.
Right.
But the key point that you're making is like, you have the freedom to turn the dial. Like you have the freedom to get off of Spotify. No one's forcing anybody to be on Spotify. No one's forcing anybody to listen to Joe Rogan or to listen to Bill Maher or you have to download HBO. So you have to listen to, no one's forcing anybody to do these things. So it just blows my mind that the reaction to all of this right now just always feels like, well, they can't be on this anymore, or we can't produce this anymore, or we can't. It just seems like such a far out result given the fact that everybody has the freedom to just not listen to these
I'm with
things.
you. But like mine goes a step further. Like if we have somebody who listens to our show every day and they're like, I love you guys, I love you guys, I love you guys. And then they come in one day and say, I think you guys did a crappy show yesterday. It doesn't mean like, oh my God, I'm never speaking to you again because you said something that I didn't like to hear. It's like, oh, and see, that would be if I liked you yesterday, I liked you the day before, I should still probably like you tomorrow. Unless you did something bad, but just because you gave a statement that I disagreed with doesn't mean.
Yeah, people stuck with us through the parade. Listen, Jim Smith's out there somewhere still thinking we're journalists, so
we are.
It's all right.
We are journalists.
That's why we're here. Let's have a little bit of fun in the show. The Razzies.
I've been having fun the whole time. Was I not supposed to be?
Are back. I'm working on it. The Razzies are back. Who was nominated for the worst of the year in cinema? For those of you who don't know what the Razzies are, essentially they are like
they're the opposite of the Oscars.
They're the opposite of the Oscars. They are the Oscars for the awful. Is a good way to put it. A couple of unique things here that we can talk about, and then maybe we'll go through some of the nominations. I found it very interesting that they were so involved in the LeBron James movie. Space Jam was nominated for the worst movie of the year, just nominated, hasn't won yet. And LeBron James was nominated for the worst actor of the year. You're always better at this, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. If you are the Razzies, how do you get the most possible attention or the most possible clicks?
Actually, that's not what I was going to say, but
okay,
that's interesting.
All right.
This is my thought.
Okay.
And I, in fairness, full disclosure, I've probably seen 20 minutes of the new one. Have you seen the new one?
Yes.
Okay, so you've seen them both. I think that LeBron's there's this whole LeBron-Michael rivalry.
Okay.
Even though they didn't play against each other, really. Did they overlap? How long's Jordan been out?
No, I don't think they ever overlapped. If it was for one.
I don't think so either. Okay, so anyway. But the whole who's greater and is LeBron close and how close and all that stuff. I think that the film industry feels like LeBron stepped on hallowed ground here by trying to make a new Space Jam. And how dare you like go after Jordan? And like maybe no, I don't even think there's anyone else.
Okay.
I don't think there's and I think that's like no.
Okay.
And they're stepping up. Because listen, in the first Space Jam, was Michael Jordan's acting performance spectacular?
No. But
Bugs Bunny's was.
There's you and I talked about this before, where sometimes like you are the character, right? And I think with Jordan, even watching that movie, he just kind of was Jordan. And did it make for a great performance? It didn't. But the point I'm making is like people just wanted to see Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan. And Jordan kind of went through the movie of just like, I'm Michael Jordan. LeBron truly tried to like spice it up. Like he really tried to sell stuff. Like he really tried to act. And so I think if LeBron just would have been LeBron, like if he just would have went through it and just kind of like, I'm LeBron and I'm going to act like LeBron, I think he would have fared much better than what he did.
Maybe. I just think that they're like, you took the easy way. You made another Space Jam. Like make a different one. Do something different. That's what I think. But one of the things about the Razzies, if you're not familiar with them, there are famous people nominating the Razzies all the time. Sometime when you're bored, find Halle Berry is one of the people who actually showed up to accept her Razzie for Catwoman.
Yeah.
And she gave an acceptance speech.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
So
well, just to give an example, last year's winners included Robert Downey Jr., Adam Sandler, and Glenn Close.
Yeah.
So
it's not nobody.
No, the people that are nominated. So the other thing that they did this year, and this was
you love.
I think
this is why
so
we're
good.
Talking about this today.
I think this is so good. The Razzies created a new special category just for Bruce Willis because he is one of the Razzies all-time favorites. I believe he leads in nominations. I don't know that for sure, but it's kind of a running gag that like Bruce Willis and the Razzies have a relationship. He was nominated for the category that is known as worst performance by Bruce Willis in a movie. That is the name of the category. All 8 of his movies, his performances were nominated, including American Siege, Apex, Cosmic Sin, Deadlock Fortress, Out of Death, Survive the Game, and Midnight in the Switchgrass. And so that is now officially a Razzie nomination.
Okay, so when I watch this, when you're writing a movie,
yes,
when you're producing a movie, when you're going through all this money, does anyone think a movie called Cosmic Sin is going to hit?
I think it depends. Like the sci-fi stuff, dude, sci-fi makes money. It's crazy.
You know what doesn't make money?
What doesn't make money?
Cosmic Sin.
This is the funny thing about sci-fi.
What was the one in the Switchgrass? That has to be a novel.
Well, I'm pretty sure someone else famous is in Megan Fox, maybe somebody else is famous in that. Midnight
she was nominated this year.
She should be nominated every year. I mean, like nothing against Megan Fox, but Megan Fox has to be nominated for a Razzie every year, isn't she?
Nothing against Megan Fox, but Jeff's saying she's a lousy actress.
You don't think she gets nominated for a Razzie most years?
I don't know.
I think she gets nominated.
I do not have the personal hatred for Megan Fox that you obviously do.
Here's the thing about sci-fi is a lot of the stuff that gets canceled, it gets picked up again. Like Netflix and the Sci-Fi Channel, like if somebody starts a sci-fi and after the first season it ends, they grab it because like sci-fi things get followings. Like it's crazy how many people will watch the most like antiquated nonsense sci-fi show, fall in love with it, and now they are like they're committed. That's why those shows like get picked up by other networks and they just keep going.
I guess.
And a lot of other like genres don't have that. Like other genres.
Oh no, I get it. There's a cult following to sci-fi.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And look, Bruce Willis must be making bank on that stuff because like 6 out of 8 of these are like sci-fi, space, like type of battle movie genre. Like it's so he must be getting good money for it.
Is he?
He did 8 movies.
Or is he just staying busy? And because he's Bruce Willis now, because you're in these low budget movies, because I can't believe Cosmic Sin has a huge budget. So they probably have it set up that he's on like a 2-week shoot.
You think so?
All his scenes in 2 weeks, then he'll come back, later on and reshoot some things that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But he probably doesn't have to put in a lot of time, and he probably gets a nice check. So they can say Bruce Willis is in it.
It's possible. They did Space Jam Worst Picture nominations, Diana the Musical. It's on Netflix. Apparently that's a thing. Space Jam New Legacy, and then they also had The Woman in the Window, which was a horrible Amy Adams movie on Netflix that did not go well. I believe the book was a bestseller, but it completely whiffed.
You saw it?
I did. It was very brutal, hard to watch.
Not just brutal, very brutal.
Very brutal, hard to watch. I've read somewhere that when you're critiquing books or movies or art, you're not supposed to use the word very.
Well, you're not supposed to use it in front of brutal.
They say
brutal means brutal.
Say, I read that it's a cheap measurement when you're critiquing, when you are a critic.
Oh, I mean, that's why Trump used to get so much flack for saying very, very.
Yeah.
He would say it twice.
Yeah. But you knew there was a scale. Like, it's very, very. It's not very, very, very. I don't know. It's a scale. Sometimes you just need a scale. What's simpler than very versus very, very? Or no very, or no very at all? I don't know. Seems simple enough.
Jeff's not just very excited about the game. He's very, very excited about it.
And some games I'm not very excited at all.
You're not excited at all.
So we'll leave it at that.
But that's not tonight's game because you've already told me how you're going to crush us multiple times.
I have not said anything at all. We'll go here. Joe Garrison. Question for Mark. Who has the greater advantage going for them tonight? Montorsville at home or Loyal Sock with Jeff Coach on the sideline? Vegas needs to know the point spread. Joe has been talking a month about asking this question on the show. This is the highlight of Joe's 2022 so far.
All I know is Loyal Sock beat Trinity. That's what I know. We did not.
Get out of here.
You did.
What's your guys' record now? You guys are having a nice season.
11-8.
11-8. You guys.
What's your? That's a good. Let's go with this. What's your record?
16-3.
Oh, there we go. Who'd you lose to?
We lost,
State College.
We lost to State College.
Who's for those of you who don't, pretty good.
They're very good this year.
Are they very good or are they very, very good?
I would say State College and Williamsport are very, very good this year.
Okay, who else did you lose to?
And we lost to Berks Catholic.
Berks Catholic.
Berks Catholic is very, very, very good.
Okay, and who was your other one?
Last I looked, Berks Catholic only loss was to Reading, and you could make the argument Reading's the best team in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's 2. You have one more?
Berks, Williamsport, and State College.
Oh, Williamsport. You lost to Williamsport. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, those teams all suck. Joe, there's your point spread right there.
Come on. It'll be interesting. Games at Montoursville tonight, rivalry game. It'll be good.
We are starting the JV game 10 minutes early, by the way, because of senior night.
Good. I'm happy you told me.
So I just got the response from.
That works for me.
So 10 minutes early.
All right. Anything else I need to know before I walk into the den tonight? What do you guys call your gym? Does your gym have a nickname?
I don't think so.
Interesting. I like on at North Penn, it used to be called the Pit.
What is your gym?
I don't know if it has it. It's the CI. It's the Ron CI Insinger Gymnasium. But I don't think it has. I don't think it has like a.
They named the
nickname.
court like they did it in Cameron Indoor. They named it Coach K Court. They named the court after Mike when he got in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So it's Mike Messina Court.
But it doesn't have like a
But
nickname.
it's not like Mike Messina's gym.
Ours was called the Pit. I'm assuming, I don't know this for sure, but in North Penn, we had the stage behind the one basket. So it's kind of like you're looking down in. So
I'm curious.
That's why it was called.
You know what we call ours?
What?
The high school gym.
Because
we have the middle school gym and the high school gym.
Right.
So we call it the high school gym. I'm curious to see the crowd because it's a Monday.
Sure.
I don't know how much else is going on a Monday, but Fridays and always draw better because it's Friday. Yeah. So I would suspect it's going to be a pretty fun crowd.
Yeah.
And And, it's senior night and it's loyal sock and,
If there are people who like high school sports or like high school basketball, the schedule for the next 2 weeks is loaded. I was looking at it last night at the games that are left over. First of all, there's a lot of teams that have to play like 6 games in the next 2 weeks.
There's a couple schools that got COVID shut for like a week, and they're scrambling.
And then on top of it, though, the matchups are fantastic. Like there's a lot of good local matchups left over the next 2 weeks. So if you are bored at home and you like high school sports, like pull up a schedule there. You could easily find 3 or 4 games worth going to in the next 2 weeks.
So did he ask for point spread? Point spread. I would say I saw Sock is like a 26-point favorite. That's what I saw.
26.
26.
I think when I was talking to Joe about it, I think I said 8. I think I went 8 when I was talking to Joe. Yeah.
You're 16-3.
It's a point spread though. Like it's not like like you're saying to like it's not football, like it's basketball. You only get 2 points from the basket.
Or 3.
You're acting like every time the ball goes through the basket, it's a touchdown.
And here's the thing. I'm excited. And it's one of the things I've told my kids, like you get into this game and we're obviously, we're on paper, we're supposed to lose because you're 16-3 and you're defending state champions. But like, this is what makes it fun. Yeah. It's at home. The crowd's going to be fun. Like, it's more. I would much rather play this game against a super team who's probably better than us, who's more experienced than us, who on paper is supposed to win, than to go play some team that we're supposed to beat by 25.
See, I always talk. I think it was the year before I showed up because I believe my cousin Tyler Bogachik played on the team, and I came right after him. And he talks about that year. Montoursville came to Loyal Sock. And it was like a 30, 35, 40-point blowout, like mercy rule, like blowout. And then later in the year, the game was at Montoursville, and Montoursville won. And so the point
we did that when we won districts.
Yeah, yep. So
you guys, I think you beat us by 41, but I'm not sure if that's right. And then you came to our place because I remember this. And back, we barely knew each other, but I think you had 14 or 16 at halftime. You guys had a brutal first half.
Oh yeah.
So you're coming out, and where Montoursville set up. When you come out of your locker room, you have to walk by our bench to get to your bench. And we were already back on the floor, and you were coming out. And I said, did you tell him anything good? And you pointed, and he goes, we told him the basket was over there. Try to put the ball in it.
I jokingly always tell, like every once in a while, I'll tell the kids, like the orange round thing goes into the orange round thing. That's the simplest way to put it. But yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that I truly, truly believe this because I was fortunate. I kind of had this freedom to play with. I was never yelled at for missing a shot because I truly believe like no one's trying to miss a shot. Like I've been yelled at for taking a bad shot but as a coach, like it's really hard to yell at guys for missing shots because no one's trying to miss.
It's not hard to yell. Lots of coaches do it. I'll tell you one of the biggest complaints that I have with kids is if they miss one and then don't shoot it again.
Yeah.
Like just because you missed it last time, if you're open and it's within your game, you need to keep shooting it. Yeah. And I'll say that to kids all the time. Keep shooting. Yeah. Don't stop shooting. Don't stop shooting.
Yeah. I like to ask them, are you a good shooter? And they'll be like, yeah, shoot.
Like I'm going to steal that.
Are you a good shooter?
Can we edit that out of the show? Well, I want to edit that so I can use that and pretend I came up with it on my own.
The best part about that one too is like no kid says no. You're right. So you kind of.
I have some that might. Well, right now, I don't know. Right now, I haven't.
So again, at Montoursville, rivalry night. If you want to check it out, JV game starting a little earlier. So varsity will still start a little after 7. It probably won't.
Well, we've seen night. That could take a minute.
That's true. So 7:30, we'll say.
Something like that.
Unless you want to come and see, you have a lot of seniors too.
We have a lot of seniors.
How many?
9.
Wow, that's a senior night.
We have senior night.
There's football teams that don't have 9 seniors on senior night.
We've seen it. Yeah, it's gonna take a minute.
Okay.
We're gonna have some fun though. We're gonna have some fun. I think I'm gonna have fun, and hopefully, all I'm hoping is the Lancers don't have too much fun because that would suck. Seriously, if you guys want to give a mediocre effort tonight. Please, Stop. It would not break my heart.
You're trying to swing the karma. I'm not going to let you. We're getting off the show before you swing it too much.
I'm being serious. You're 16-3.
Hey, thanks for letting me talk about shipping yards today. I appreciate that. I'm sure that wasn't like up your alley of things you wanted to talk about today.
This is true story. And we have a kid in senior night because they always say like where you're going to college, what you want to major in.
Mm-hmm.
He's majoring in like it's supply chain management or something.
Yep.
I'm like, that field's growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talk about.
I think I told you one of my favorite cousins, she went to Penn State, did supply chain. She now works for a company down in Allentown called Lutron. And she's like, it is a mess. Just
I can imagine.
That whole field, she's like, it is just a nightmare right now.
Oh, I can just imagine. They're calling people.
Like they're hiring.
Oh,
like
I'm
they're
sure.
looking for people.
But they're calling people and they're like, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
That would be much of the frustration.
Well, it's a solutions job where right now there very few solutions. Yeah. So I would imagine it's a rough go for her or anybody in that field right now.
So anyway,
all right,
mediocre. That should be, when you're talking to your team tonight before the game, the word I want you to use is mediocre. I don't want you guys to be terrible. I would never want that. But mediocre would be nice.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our sponsor. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all your local news, like the PA Game Commission's reminder to not feed the animals.
Don't feed the animals.
I'm Jeff Everett.
You know what? Just let them die.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Hopefully we're not canceled, and we'll see you tomorrow.